I saw my wife had called a strange number 21 times this week. I stormed straight into the bathroom to confront her. She looked at me, head full of shampoo, with a completely exasperated expression. If you think I'm cheating, just call the number and ask. Pick one, any one, and call it. The door slammed shut. I was sure. I dialed the number. A cheerful man's voice answered. Welcome to the Grove Kitchen and Bar. How can I help you? The Grove was a restaurant I went to all the time. I hung up embarrassed. Later, when I was at the restaurant for dinner, I mentioned it to the manager. Your guy at the front desk is really professional. This is a little something for him, I said, offering a tip. The manager looked at me, confused. We don't have any male receptionists. It's always been women. I pretended I'd misremembered and played it cool. Then I went home and pulled the navigation history from my wife's car. Just as I suspected, I found a condo listed under my mother-in-law's name. When I knocked on the door, a man wearing nothing but a towel answered. I stared at the man in front of me. Droplets of water traced paths down his defined abs before disappearing into the towel. He looked 5 or 6 years younger than me, in the prime of his life. He must have been expecting someone else, because a flash of surprise crossed his eyes. Then I heard that same cheerful, familiar voice. You must be Jake, right? I'm Catherine's distant cousin. I'm just crashing here while I'm applying to grad school. I looked at him coldly. So Catherine had already cooked up an excuse for him. I couldn't imagine how many times they'd rehearsed this. He didn't show a single crack in his story. If it hadn't been for that phone call, even if I'd found this place, I never would have suspected a thing. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and my heart sank. And you are. I pushed my glasses up, sizing them up. All right, look at me. Forgot to introduce myself. My name's Leo Vance. He held out his hand. I let out a short, cynical laugh. Pretty friendly, aren't you? I brushed past him and walked into the condo. As our shoulders passed, I noticed a string of numbers tattooed on his bicep. SJ7. 17, my eyes narrowed, locking onto the stylized script. He noticed me looking. That's my old college team's name and the day it was founded, he explained casually. We were young and intense back then, thought the date was the most important thing in the world, so I got it tattooed. Even though his tone was light, he kept watching me out of the corner of his eye. I understood one thing from his gaze. That date had something to do with Catherine. Had they been hooking up since college? But that was 4 years ago. How could I have not noticed a single thing? My stare grew colder. I scanned the room. It was clearly lived in. There was no TV in the living room, just a massive projector screen, set up like a mini home theater. Instead of a couch, there were Japanese-style tatami mats on the floor. Next to them sat a high-end massage chair that must have cost a fortune. I could almost picture them spending countless passionate nights in this very spot. Just as I was about to head into the bedroom, the front door opened again. It was Catherine. She got here fast. I stood by the doorway, a smirk on my face, watching her walk in, her hair slightly messy. What are you doing here? She went on the offensive immediately. Jake Anderson, are you investigating me? Her face turned cold and hard. She was clearly pissed. Normally, this would be my cue to drop everything and try to make her happy. Now, I just pointed toward the bedroom. Then why don't you explain this? She frowned and walked right up to me, conveniently blocking my view of Leo. What's there to explain? He's my cousin. My mom asked me to look after him. Is that a problem? I didn't say anything. She let out an exasperated laugh and pulled out her phone, dialing her mother. Mom, Jake thinks I'm cheating on him. You need to explain the whole thing with Leo, because he obviously won't believe a word I say. Then, to my complete shock, she shoved the phone in my hands. Jake, honey, Leo is your cousin-in-law's son. I'm the one who asked Kat to look after him. She probably just didn't mention it, because you've been so busy. I'm so sorry, dear. My mother-in-law's warm, gentle voice came through the phone, as if she were infinitely patient with my paranoia. Jake, you have to come over for dinner when you have a free evening, okay? I gotta run to my bridge game now, honey, so I'll talk to you later. After she hung up, the shock still hadn't left my face. Catherine stared at me. You believe me now? Let's go home. Don't make a scene in front of Leo. Leo, standing beside her, offered a sympathetic smile. Catherine, don't say that. It just shows how much Jake cares about you. Right, Jake? I followed Catherine downstairs in silence. She turned to me. I have a meeting this afternoon. We'll settle this when I get home. She clicked away in her heels, her heavy steps making it seem like she was still furious with my ridiculous behavior as she quickly disappeared from sight. I lower my eyes. After thinking for a moment, I call my old friend. Mark, I need you to run a check on someone for me. Mark sent the file over before dinner. Different college from Catherine. No overlap in their lives whatsoever. It was almost like he really was just a distant cousin. I frowned, my brow furrowed. A moment later, I messaged Mark again. Check my mother-in-law. Major expenses for the last 3 years. Purchase histories, bank statements, real estate transfers. Everything. Mark replied instantly. Dude, are you crazy? You've always treated your mother-in-law like she was your own mom. Why the sudden deep dive on her? I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone and stared out the window. I guess my love for Catherine extended to her family. She came from a single-parent home, and I was always grateful to her mother for raising her. From the day we got married, I treated her like my own mother. Every time Catherine and I fought, her mom was always firmly on my side. If all of that was a lie, then what was real? Half an hour later, Mark called me directly. Holy shit, man. How the hell did you figure this out? Catherine's been playing you for a fool all these years? I sent everything over. See for yourself. I opened the file on my mother-in-law's bank statements. Starting 3 years ago, Catherine had been wiring $15,000 into one of her mother's accounts every single month. But the rest was just living expenses. The most frequent purchases were from a specific Japanese lifestyle brand. A regular charge every single week. I scrolled up and saw the date the account was opened. 7/17. I got it. It was their anniversary. Then I opened the second document. These were purchases made from my mother-in-law's primary account. There was the condo they were in now. The massage chair worth tens of thousands of dollars. A sports car transferred from overseas. And for every single one of these items, there was a clearly signed gift agreement. I started laughing, but my face was wet with tears. What was Catherine thinking when she set all this up? Was she already planning the excuses she'd use if I ever found out? What was going through her mind when she did all this? The last document was the final straw. It was an investment made in her mother's name in a clothing brand's design studio. Under the list of shareholders and founders was one name, Leo Vance. I don't know how I made it home. When I came to my senses, my car was already parked in the underground garage. My phone was buzzing with a string of traffic alerts. Speeding, running red lights. I covered my face and slumped over the steering wheel, unable to get my emotions under control. My phone rang, the sound piercing the silence of the car. I answered, exhausted. Jake, where are you? Why am I getting all these speeding alerts? Did something happen? Catherine's voice was frantic, laced with worry. I was in a hurry, dropping off some document for someone. I lied. Her angry voice shot back. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Pull over right now. I'll come pick you up. I could hear her rustling around, getting dressed. Don't bother. I'm in the garage. The sound on her end stopped instantly. Catherine breathed a sigh of relief. Well, hurry up and come inside. The moment the elevator doors opened, I saw Catherine in her loungewear with a coat thrown hastily over it. Her eyes were filled with concern. She started rambling, complaining about how a man my age shouldn't be driving like a maniac, that I didn't know how dangerous it was. I just stared at her. The woman who was so worried about my safety was the same woman meticulously building a new life for another man. 3. That night, after Catherine was asleep, I found a new lawyer. I had him start calculating our assets and sent him the records I had. I told him to handle everything. The next morning, I woke up to find Catherine had, for once, made breakfast. I have a meeting with a client in Bellevue today. It's on your way. Can you give me a ride? I looked at her quietly for a moment, then nodded. It wasn't time to blow things up yet. I needed more evidence. On the drive, my phone kept ringing. Just as I was about to answer, Catherine snatched it and declined the call. Are you hiding a little something on the side from me? She teased. Hearing her turn the tables on me like that, I scoffed internally. In the end, she fussed until I didn't take the call. When I got to my office building, my assistant was waiting for me downstairs. He hurried over as I walked up. After a moment's hesitation, he asked cautiously, Sir, have you had any contact recently with a studio called this, Jay? My breath caught in my throat at the familiar name. My mouth went dry. A terrible feeling washed over me. No, what? He quickly handed me a tablet displaying a dozen design sketches. My breathing hitched. Looking at the familiar design elements, a fire of rage ignited in my chest. I strode quickly to my office and told him to give me the full story. It turned out this studio, SJ, had published a set of concept designs and had them copyrighted. The design elements on the clothes were almost identical to my company's star product line for the upcoming season. The tricky part was, to maintain an element of surprise, we hadn't publicly revealed the designs. We'd already started the production run. The celebrity endorsements were already signed. This meant that if consumers thought we were the copycats, the company would suffer catastrophic losses. Worse, we burned bridges with a whole network of partners. A chill ran down my spine. The first person I thought of was Catherine. I never imagined that to pave the way for Leo, she would be willing to sacrifice the company I built from the ground up. Before I could even think of a strategy, another assistant burst into my office. Mr. Anderson, the guy behind the plagiarism, is on an interview right now. I sat up straight and took the assistant's phone. Leo Vance was on a popular business show, Market Makers. He was dressed in a clean, crisp style, looking like the boy next door. He handled the host's sharp questions with a calm confidence that was winning him points. When asked why the studio had that name, he casually lifted his sleeve, revealing the tattoo on his bicep. It's to honor someone who is incredibly important to me. I want her name to be not just in my heart, but on my body and in my life. She is everywhere. The host looked impressed. That must be your partner, then. Would you mind sharing your story? He shook his head with a bashful smile. I promised her I wouldn't mention her in public without her permission. A few comments popped up in the live chat. Can't mention her? What kind of relationship is that? You think she's married? Whoa, the person above might be onto something. If he's this public about it, why can't he say her name? You guys are just jealous. Maybe it's just their thing, you know? The chat quickly devolved into an argument. I stared at the comments, lost in thought. The host asked another question. So, what was the inspiration for this design collection? And why call it Golden Hour? Leo froze for a second. The host continued. Does it refer to the time you met this person? During a beautiful sunset, perhaps? She must be a fan of warm, golden light. Leo clearly didn't have an answer. I had no idea why the host had brought that up. But Leo quickly found a way out. He gave a little wink to the camera and a mysterious smile. He didn't say another word. I stared at the screen, my voice low. Nothing gold can stay. That was the real inspiration for the collection's name. I never thought it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy. 4. After the interview, Leo Vance became an overnight sensation. After all, the designs were the product of half a year's hard work by my entire team. They set the design world on fire. Leo's studio went from a complete unknown to being flooded with partnership offers. It only took a month. And in that month, 4 of my senior designers quit. Morale in my company hit rock bottom. In just 30 days, the media had crowned Leo a design prodigy. Meanwhile, things with Catherine were getting chaotic. First, one of her investments went bust, and she was desperate to cover the losses. She told me she needed to transfer $500,000 from our joint account. I glanced at her, my face impassive. I agreed. Not long after, my lawyer sent me the proof. The statement showed exactly where the money went. I continued to play along. After that, she got bolder. Using a company we co-owned, she launched a charitable initiative. She approved a $750,000 R&D loan for Leo. The paperwork looked legitimate enough. Reviews, signatures, no red flags for an outsider. I smiled as I looked at the documents. I figured once that money came through, it would be enough for Leo to turn his little studio into a full-fledged company. And sure enough, SJ Company was born. They started hiring aggressively. Office equipment, computers, they bought the best of the best. Meanwhile, my own company was in crisis. An employee would quit my company one day, and the next, they'd have an offer from SJ for double the salary I was paying. It seemed Leo was ready to go head-to-head with me. One day, Catherine, who hadn't been home for a week, suddenly showed up. Jake, I might have to go out of town for a bit. There's a problem with one of the out-of-state offices. I forced a smile, my eyes filled with scorn. How much do you need? Catherine waved her hands dismissively. I heard things are tough for you right now. How are you holding up? Are you managing? Her blatant attempt to gauge my situation only hardened my heart. Catherine, I thought, let's see who's left standing at the end of this game. I deliberately put on an exhausted expression. Playing my part, I said, "It's fine. Don't worry about me. If you need anything while you're there, just ask. This won't break me." That line completely erased any suspicion she might have had. She leaned in and kissed my cheek. "Oh, honey, I knew you were the best." That night, I claimed I was working in my study, but I actually spent it in the guest bathroom, washing my face 20 times. The next day, Catherine left with her luggage, a solemn look on her face, as if she were really off to solve some major crisis. In reality, she drove to the airport, parked her car, and took an Uber back into the city. Not long after, I got a text from Mark. "Dude, holy shit. Just saw your wife at a hotel. You know, that super expensive, couples-themed one. Damn, man, this makes me sick. When are you going to make your move?" I texted back 2 words, "Stay calm." 2 days later, I received confirmation that Catherine had injected another $1.5 million into SJ. A total of $2,750,000. Enough to build Leo a production line, complete with logistics. Catherine really spared no expense. Blinded by her success, or perhaps convinced her plan was foolproof, she didn't even bother to cover her tracks this time. The money trail was crystal clear, and that was the moment I had been waiting for. I met my lawyer at a discreet tea house. My mother-in-law's bank statements and the gift agreements. Copies of documents that had been carefully doctored by them. Chat logs they thought they had deleted. Everything was laid out on the table. The lawyer's expression was grim. "This is not only proof of malicious transfer of marital assets," he said. "It also constitutes criminal fraud." I nodded calmly and gathered all the evidence. I was just waiting for them to climb to what they believed was the very top. On the day of the company's grand opening ceremony, Leo was the center of attention, surrounded by a crowd. Praise was coming from all sides. "Mr. Vance, you've accomplished so much at such a young age. SJ Studio is on a trajectory to be the next big thing in the industry. Catherine, your eye for talent is just incredible." Catherine stood not far from Leo, beaming with pride. They were the stars of the show. This was the glamorous scene Catherine had bought and paid for with my designs and my money. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, the MC's booming voice filled the room. "Distinguished guests, we have now arrived at the most exciting moment of the evening. Please give your warmest round of applause for the founder of SJ Studio, Mr. Leo Vance, and his investor, Ms. Catherine Miller, as they come to the stage for the ribbon cutting." Thunderous applause nearly blew the roof off the place. And at that exact moment, I pushed open the doors and walked in. The smile on Catherine's face froze the instant she saw me. She dropped the golden scissors and rushed over, ignoring the stares of the crowd. "Jake, what are you doing here? This is Leo's big day. Whatever it is, we can talk about it at home." I calmly pulled my arm away, my gaze shifting past her to Leo. "I don't think we have anything to talk about, but I do have a few things I'd like to discuss with Mr. Vance." With that, I walked to the large screen at the front of the room and plugged in a flash drive. "I'd like to ask Mr. Vance how the designs my team worked on for 6 months suddenly became yours. They say young people should stand on the shoulders of giants, but shouldn't you at least give the giant a heads up?" The room erupted in murmurs. The media immediately smelled a scandal. Cameras swiveled to face me. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to every corner of the room. "Catherine, when you were secretly funneling money to this man, building him an empire, did you ever stop to think that it was our shared marital property?" I clicked, and a video from our conference room appeared on the screen. The timestamp was from 6 months ago. In the video, one of my designers was asking me, "Sir, are we confirming that the core concept for Golden Hour is the sense of loss from nothing gold can stay?" "That's right," I replied. "The focus is on transience and memory. The design elements need to revolve around the idea of fading. The lines should be fluid but have a sense of fragmentation." The scene switched to another meeting. The designers were discussing specific patterns, how to abstract classic motifs like clouds and orchids for modern apparel. I pointed out several revisions. The screen cycled through frames, showing the evolution of the design drafts, from rough sketches to polished final versions. Every single revision report bore my signature. Finally, the screen froze on one of Leo's designs. Aside from the logo and a different color palette, it was identical to our final version. The entire venue fell deathly silent. Leo swayed on his feet, looking like he was about to faint. Catherine was the first to react. "Jake, you're claiming Golden Hour is yours. You forged all this evidence because you're jealous that I'm supporting Leo, aren't you? You're my husband. You don't need to resort to such pathetic tactics to assert your dominance." She was trying to pin everything on me. I laughed coldly. "Catherine, I'm defending my rights. If you disagree, why don't you call the police?" I stared her down. Suddenly, Leo dropped to his knees in the middle of the stage with a thud. "Jake, I'm Catherine's cousin. We've explained this so many times. We even had my aunt call you. Why won't you believe us? Catherine mentioned before that you might be having some mental health issues, but I never thought it was this serious. Fabricating all of this to frame me. You're going to ruin me." Camera flashes went off nonstop. The crowd's expression shifted from scorn to pity. Catherine visibly relaxed. I clenched my fists. People were looking at me like I was a psychopath. Someone even suggested calling a psychiatric hospital to come and get me. A smirk played on my lips. I shot Catherine a cold smile. "Catherine, do you also think I have a mental illness?" Her eyes darted around. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll get you an appointment with the best therapist." I cut her off. "Fina, how about this? You go find a therapist to come evaluate me. And while we're waiting, I'll show everyone something a little more interesting." Amid a sea of shocked faces, I clicked open another folder. Leo knelt on stage, sobbing, playing the part of the pitiful victim. Anyone who didn't know better would really think he was just Catherine's cousin. "Leo, are you sure you and Catherine are related by blood?" Leo froze, not daring to answer. His evasive expression was captured in sharp detail by the cameras. All eyes were on me, waiting for what I would say next. Just as I was about to speak, Catherine lashed out. "Jake, have you made enough of a scene?" Her voice was shrill, an attempt to overpower me. She rushed forward, trying to yank the flash drive from the projector. "Are you happy now that you've ruined us? Stop talking nonsense and making a fool of yourself in front of everyone." I easily blocked her hand. My eyes swept over her and Leo, cold as ice, before settling on the crowd and the flashing cameras. "The ones who ruined you were never me. It's your own greed and shamelessness that have made you a laughingstock. What does that have to do with me? Don't get in my way. Can't you see how badly everyone wants to see the drama unfold? If you have nothing to hide, why are you so desperate to shut me up?" Catherine looked at the faces in the audience, all hungry for gossip. A wave of despair washed over her. She knew I wouldn't back down today, and she had no idea what other cards I was holding. Then a thought occurred to her. Maybe I was just bluffing. Maybe I had nothing else. She forced herself to suppress her rising panic. "Say whatever you want," she said dismissively. "Lies are still lies." I was done playing games with her. I took out my phone and dialed a number I had ready. "You can come in now." The main doors of the hall swung open again. My lawyer entered, accompanied by two officials in notary public uniforms. They carried thick document folders, walking steadily to my side. "To all our friends in the media, and to our guests here tonight, I'll now turn things over to my lawyer. To ensure the authenticity and validity of the evidence, we've also brought officials from the notary's office. If anyone has any questions, feel free to challenge the evidence." I stepped back. The lawyer scanned the room, his voice professional and calm. "My client, Mr. Jake Anderson, is here today to officially present evidence that his spouse, Ms. Catherine Miller, during the course of their marriage, maliciously transferred shared marital assets to finance Mr. Leo Vance and his affiliated company, SJ Studio." The lawyer began to read from the documents, one by one, as the notaries displayed the certified copies for all to see. First transfer, $500,000. Ms. Miller claimed it was to cover a failed investment. In reality, it was wired directly to Mr. Vance's personal account. Second transfer, $750,000. Ms. Miller, through a company under her name, approved this as an R&D loan to SJ Studio. Third transfer, $1.5 million. Claimed to be for an out-of-state company's operational costs. It was actually invested directly into SJ Studio for the purchase of production line equipment. The facts were undeniable. Faced with irrefutable proof, Catherine had nothing left to say. At the same time, in the live stream of a media outlet covering the ceremony, the number of online viewers skyrocketed. The comments section exploded. OMG, OMG. What a plot twist. She's a total con artist, bleeding her husband dry to support her boy toy. $2.75 million. The nerve. That must be some serious family love right there. Ugh. And I actually felt sorry for her a minute ago, thinking she was being harassed by a crazy husband. Turns out she's the snake. This Leo guy is the worst kind of leech. Not only steals the guy's ideas, but all his money was stolen by his sugar mama. Scandal of the year. My heart goes out to the husband. Hope he takes them to the cleaners. While the venue was in an uproar, another media crew, acting fast, was already knocking on the door of Catherine's mother. Unaware of what was happening, her mother saw the reporters with their cameras and assumed Leo had made it big. Thinking she was getting a taste of his fame, she beamed at the camera, lavishing praise without restraint. Oh my, are you here to interview Leo? That boy is something else. So handsome and so talented. My daughter Catherine has such a good eye for people. She always has. Look at this investment in Leo. Didn't she just hit the jackpot? Our cat is just so blessed. This interview was quickly clipped, edited together with the live footage from the ceremony, and paired with commentary from the live chat. It went viral, becoming the topic of conversation everywhere. When Catherine's mother finally learned the truth from the whispers of her neighbors and a frantic, sobbing phone call from her daughter, she nearly collapsed from the shame and anger. For months afterward, she didn't dare set foot outside her house. At this point, any defense was futile. The divorce proceedings began. It wasn't until she was served with a court summons that Catherine seemed to truly grasp that I was determined to erase her from my life completely. Before the hearing, at the courthouse entrance, she rushed over and grabbed my arm, her voice breaking. Jay, please, listen to me. Can we just stop this? Let's go home. We can go back to how things were. I promise I'll cut Leo out of my life for good. I pulled my arm away, my face a blank mask. She thought marriage was a game where a mistake could be undone with a few tears and an apology. But some cracks, once they form, become permanent chasms. Catherine, I'll see you in court. My voice was devoid of all warmth. In the courtroom, her lawyer tried to argue her case. My client, Ms. Catherine Miller's, investment in Mr. Leo Vance's studio was based on a desire to help a relative and a belief in the project's potential. It was a normal business investment, not a malicious transfer of marital assets. A relative? My lawyer presented the results of a detailed genealogical investigation. The supposed cousin relationship between Mr. Leo Vance and Ms. Catherine Miller is a complete fabrication. As for the investment, there was no professional assessment report, nor any reasonable expectation of returns. The sole purpose was to divert assets to support her extramarital affair. Next, he presented the security footage from the condo complex registered in her mother's name. The video clearly showed that less than half an hour after I'd left that day, Catherine had returned to the condo, not leaving again until after dark. And when she did leave, she was wearing a different set of clothes. Furthermore, on the day she claimed to be on a business trip, the car's navigation history showed it never left the airport parking garage. She had taken an Uber back into the city and gone straight to a hotel. The hotel reservation and payment receipts matched her movements perfectly. The color drained from Catherine's face. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but ultimately slumped back in her chair, staring blankly ahead, unable to utter a single word. I had won. Catherine left the marriage with nothing. All assets transferred to Leo Vance, and his studio had to be returned in full within 3 months of the judgment. The day the judgment took effect, I moved quickly. The court seals were placed on the doors of the brand new company. All of its bank accounts were frozen. Leo Vance, once lifted to the heavens, came crashing down into the mud. The company was dissolved, unable to pay a single cent. Former employees picketed outside the office daily, demanding their wages. Those who had jumped ship for double the salary were now facing a harsh reality. Many of them came back to me, tried to get their old jobs back. Mr. Anderson, we were out of our minds. Sir, please give us another chance. The company needs people right now. I calmly refused every one of them. I had given a chance once. They had to bear the cost of their betrayal. After the scandal, no one in the industry would touch them. They ended up at small, struggling firms, their careers in tatters. Once the dust settled, Leo became a deadbeat debtor. There was still a lot of money unaccounted for, funds he had embezzled for his own use. He fell from grace, trampled by the very people who had once propped him up. The immense psychological shock was more than he could handle. He started drinking heavily, often found making a scene on the street late at night, telling anyone who would listen that he was a CEO worth millions. Passers-by avoided him like he was crazy. Someone filmed one of his tirades, set it to ridiculous music, and posted it online. He went viral again, but in a way he could never have imagined. The pressure of reality finally broke his already fragile mind. Seeing him completely spiral out of control, having a breakdown on the street, I contacted a psychiatric hospital. It was, in a way, a final destination for him, and one of his own making at that. Life was just as hard for Catherine's mother. The gossip from her neighbors made it impossible to stay in her city. She was forced to retreat to her small hometown. But in a small town, news travels faster and is far more venomous. She went from being the object of everyone's envy to the laughingstock of the entire county. Finally unable to bear the whispers and stares, on a quiet morning, she ended her own life with a rope, never escaping the rumors that hounded her to the very end. After handling her mother's funeral, Catherine fell silent. She gradually disappeared from public view. She had lost her marriage, her wealth, and her mother. Her lover was in a mental institution, and her own reputation was destroyed. She survived on what little money she had left and by working odd jobs. Occasionally, she would be seen staring at my company's skyscraper from a distance. After weathering the crisis, my company's market value multiplied several times over. My wealth and status continued to climb. I appeared on the covers of business magazines multiple times, becoming one of the youngest self-made billionaires on the list. Catherine could only watch my success from the shadows. She would never again have the right to stand before me. The rest of her life would be spent in a crucible of regret and loneliness. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of my office, looking out at the glittering city lights. The past felt like a painful, absurd nightmare. Now, the dream was over. Marriage was like a finely crafted piece of porcelain. Once shattered, the cracks can never be truly repaired. Rather than trying to survive among the shards, it's better to let go completely. Upon the ruins, a new order had been built. My life, from this day forward, was a wide-open road to a bright future.